Also, can I just say how I do not trust the dean of this school at all? First of all, his name is Rottenham. And in a book, especially a fantasy book, why would you give someone that name unless they are up to no good? But the elementals in this story, they remind me of Dementors. Join me in today's video for a cozy reading vlog of the YA fantasy book Draw Down the Moon by PC Cass and Kristen Cass. Okay, so just a little update. I'm only on page 10, but our main character is Ren, and she's just turned 18. And she just mentions how she had plans to go to community college and to take business classes so that she could manage her uncle's bookstore. I just thought that was really cool. Okay, back to reading. Hi, so I'm here with an update. I've made it to chapter 7, page 69, and so far I am enjoying this. It's giving fun vibes along with an undertone of mystery. I'm already getting the feeling that something isn't quite right with this moon magic school, but let me back up a little bit and tell you what this is about first. So this book follows the alternating perspectives of our two main characters, Ren and Lee, and the two of them are best friends. And at the start of the book, the two of them are being reunited after not seeing each other for 2 years because Lee's family moved away to Brooklyn. And it's also the eve of Ren's 18th birthday, and so that night she drags Lee out to get up to some mischief. And she ends up pouring liquid dishwasher soap into a fountain, which then makes it overflow with bubbles. And she wants Lee to take a picture of her with the fountain at midnight. And so he does. But when it strikes midnight, a spear of moonlight strikes Ren and fills her with magic. And this is a big deal because up to this point in her life, she has felt no magic whatsoever. And in this book, there are people who have moon magic, but they're just a small percentage of the population. And usually moon magic runs in a family, and Ren's parents had moon magic, but she was not born under a full moon. And that's the other condition that is required for someone to have moon magic. They're born under a full moon. And so she's just lived her whole life accepting that she wouldn't have magic. And she's actually perfectly fine with not having magic. And she has like her life planned out. But now, because of this, she has magic and her whole life is like turned upside down, and she's not really happy about having magic because she doesn't want her life to change. She's happy with the way her life is. But now, since she has magic, she has to go spend the summer at a magic school because it's required of everyone that has moon magic. The summer that they turn 18, they have to go to a magic school to train and learn how to use their magic. And the only good thing about her going off to the school is 2 of her friends also have moon magic, and they will also be going, and one of those is our other main character, Lee. So he'll be going there too. So then our story goes from there. And so now for my thoughts. So like I said earlier, I am enjoying this. I'm really liking the moon-based magic system. So I mentioned that if you have magic, you're born on a full moon usually. The full moons also relate to different astrology signs. And based on the astrology sign that you're born under, that determines what kind of magic you have. For example, Aquarius moons are healers. Leo moons can manipulate group emotions and behaviors. Taurus moons have unusual memory gifts. And Scorpio moons are very strong physically. And so I'm just finding that whole magic system very interesting. And in addition to that, there also recently has been the introduction of elementals. So when they get to the island where the school is revealed that elementals also live on that island. And each of the elementals is also associated with a certain star sign, which I also thought was very interesting. So Aquariuses are associated with air, Tauruses are associated with earth, Scorpios are associated with water, and Leos are associated with fire. And then in addition to enjoying the magic system, I'm also liking our 2 main characters, Ren and Lee, so far as well. I like that Ren has a very strong personality. She is kind of a rule breaker, as you can see at the very beginning of the book when she goes out to do the prank. And the very first line of the book shows how much of a mischief maker she is, because it says, "I'm pretty sure that at any moment blue and red lights will flash and the local sheriff will tear down the street and stop me again." So this isn't the first time that she has gotten up to mischief. But it's also very clear that beneath her tough exterior, like, she's dealing with a lot, because it's also mentioned that 5 years ago she lost both her parents, and that's why she now lives with her uncle and his husband. And then Lee is kind of almost like the opposite of her. Ren is very much a rule breaker, whereas Lee strictly follows his parents' rules. And that's the other thing. So Lee is an Aquarius, so he has healer magic, and he is from a prestigious magic family, and they are the owner of a very successful pharmaceutical company, which Lee will one day inherit. And so his father has like all these expectations for him, and he's expected to make the right connections with certain people when he's at this school for the summer. And I already have a feeling that those certain people he has to make connections with might not be very nice people, and I feel like that is going to cause some tension between him and Ren. And also, Lee has a crush on Ren. And it doesn't seem like so far that she feels the same way about him, so I'm not really sure how the romance is gonna go, but I'm interested to see how that develops. Also, can I just say how I do not trust the dean of this school at all? First of all, his name is Rottenham. And in a book, especially a fantasy book, why would you give someone that name unless they are up to no good? And it definitely seems like he has some secrets that he is hiding as well. And also, 2 years ago, before the start of the book, Lee's sister went to the school for the summer, but she never returned. She ended up dying. And she worked under Dean Rottenham. And so I feel like he had something to do with her death. And then one other thing I want to mention is that reading this book feels a lot like revisiting my teen years. And it feels a little bit nostalgic to me because as a teenager, I was a big fan of the House of Night series, which is also by Kristen and PC Cast. And so this one does feel very familiar, like the writing style is very similar. And also the setting of a school and Ren's powers, since they just kind of randomly manifested and she wasn't born under a full moon, she doesn't really belong in any one specific moon star house. And that at the beginning of this book, when they get to the school, they are sorted into different dorms based on their moon sign. And during that whole scene, Ren is like, oh no, what do I do? And as each moon house is called, that symbol pops above the student's head, so they know to go to that house, but no symbol pops above Ren's head. So one of the people in charge at the school ends up telling her just to choose any house that she wants at the time. So you know, like, based on that Ren is going to have some sort of special powers, and that kind of reminds me a lot of Zoe, who is the main character in the House of Night. So those are all my thoughts for now. I'll be back with more thoughts after I read some more. Hi, so it's a few days later, and I do have a reading update on Draw Down the Moon. So I have made it to page 213, chapter 20. So I'm a little more than halfway through this book, and I am still really enjoying it. And there are two aspects of this book in particular that I am really enjoying, and one of those is just the setting and overall atmosphere. So this book takes place at a magical school and is located on an island, and the island and the school is hidden from humans by magic, so they can't find it. And the school is really giving me Hogwarts vibes, but if Hogwarts were a little bit more modern. So at this school, there is no internet and cell phones are not allowed, but in the dorm rooms there are TVs, DVD players, and retro video games. But the school building also gives me Hogwarts vibes because it is described as being surrounded by ancient pine trees and as part castle and part country mansion, and is described as being 2 stories of arched windows, rounded doors, and graceful peaks and towers. So overall, just like the setting of the school and the island just feels so magical and cozy and also mysterious, and I just love it. And then one other thing, I know I mentioned them in my earlier update, but the elementals in this story, they remind me of Dementors. And as their name suggests, elementals obviously control the elements, and they don't like suck the souls out of people with a kiss, but they just have the same scary, creepy vibe that the Dementors have, because the elementals all wear cloaks and they have glowing eyes and they have skeletal hands with claws. And then the second thing that I'm enjoying very much about this book so far is the plot. One of the plot lines that I'm really enjoying is that all the students have to participate in a competition called the Trials. There are 3 trials, and there is going to be 1 each month over the course of the summer. And they're supposed to be very difficult and dangerous, but they're also supposed to help the students learn how to control and develop their powers. And the person who wins gets the attention of the Lunar Council. And the Lunar Council is pretty much the government of the magical community. So that's a very big deal. But I just love when there are like tournament arcs in books. So far where I am in the book, I've gotten to see 1 trial, and I thought it was very exciting. And during that trial, we got to see Lee use his magic, but also we got hints of what Ren's magic might actually be too. And then along with that whole trial plot, there's also other things going on that I'm finding very intriguing, like trying to figure out Ren's powers and also trying to figure out the truth behind the death of Lee's sister, because she died 2 years before the start of our story at this school. And there has been more development of the romance between Ren and Lee, but so far I'm just finding the romance aspect of this book to be my least favorite thing of the book so far. And it's not bad, it's fine. Like, Ren and Lee, they have some cute and sweet moments. And I knew, like, the drama that was going to be coming because of this romance plot. And that drama, it already happened. It wasn't drawn out that much, so I'm happy for that. But there's just, like, so many more interesting things going on in this book that I feel like the romance, it's kind of just there and kind of just, like, a small part of the story, which I'm completely fine with. And yeah, so those are all my thoughts so far about Draw Down the Moon. Like I said, I'm really enjoying it, and I hope I continue to enjoy it. I really want to know more about Ren's powers, and I also want to know the truth about the death of Lee's sister as well. And so I might try to finish this today, but I also need to do some cleaning around my apartment, so we'll see how that goes. But my next update will probably be my final thoughts after I finish this. Hi, so I finished Draw Down the Moon, so I am back with my final thoughts. So first off, this book ended on an evil cliffhanger. It had one of the worst cliffhangers that I've read in a while. And this is the first book in a duology, so the second book isn't coming out until next April, on April 1st, so I have quite a bit of time before I can read the next one and find out what happens. And just the last 30 pages of this book were crazy, in a good way, well, mostly in a good way. I do feel like everything at the end happened kind of fast, and maybe a little too fast, so the ending just felt a tiny bit rushed to me. But I was super invested in what was going on till the very end. And also something towards the end happened that I wasn't expecting, and it almost made me cry. So there was that. And I will say that towards the end, Ren and Lee did frustrate me a little bit. Like, some of their actions and the things they were thinking were a little frustrating, and especially Lee in the last chapter. frustrated me a little bit because some of the things he said to me, like, I could kind of see where he's coming from, but at the same time, it almost seemed like it was slightly out of character. But that's just a small gripe. It didn't take away from my overall enjoyment of the book. Also, there was another romantic scene between Lee and Ren towards the end, and while I found that scene cute, I still feel like, to me personally, the romance felt like the weakest link of the book. And for me, there were just so many more elements and things going on in the book that I found a lot more interesting than the romance. And also, I love the friendship element in this book, and I actually enjoyed that more than the romance as well. And so in the book, Lee and Ren are already friends, but then they also become friends with other students as well. And together they all end up forming a tight-knit group of friends, and also have like that feeling of found family as well. And one of my favorite scenes in the book had to do with those bonds of friendship. And it was a scene where one of their friends is saying how she's afraid that they won't be her friends anymore because her brother is kind of controlling and likes to isolate her from everyone else so that he can then control her. Everyone is reassuring her that they're going to be her friends, that the brother won't get in the way, and Lee says, "We'll be your friends." And then Ren replies, "We can do better than that. We'll be your family." And I just love that line so much. And just the feeling of wholesomeness that their friend group brought to the story, I just loved it. So overall, I very much enjoyed this book, and I will definitely be reading the next one when it comes out. And I definitely recommend this book if you like stories with magic, magic systems, found family. And also, if you read and liked the House of Night series by these authors, then I think you should definitely check out this book as well, because it does have like the similar feeling and some similar elements of House of Night. Like, you have magic and you have them going to a school, you have a main character whose life pretty much gets turned upside down because of this magic. But I will say that this book feels a little bit more wholesome and has far less drama than the House of Night did. So we've reached the end of the video. If you've read Draw Down the Moon, let me know down below what you thought of it. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye!